Chris, and fall is only a few weeks away. With the changing leaves and cooler temperatures comes something else, the arrival of La Nina.
However, it looks like that could take a while. To explain what that means for our weather, we bring in meteorologist Matt Gray.
All right, so back in May, I was sitting right here, told you about a possible quick flip over from the El Nino winter we had to La Nina sometime in the summer. Now, we're sitting in mid-August, so I think it's pretty apparent that didn't quite happen. But we are still on track to see La Nina by the time winter comes around. And look, folks, that's what ultimately matters. La Nina often leads to colder and snowier winters here in the Northwest. And after the last 6-7 months, I think we could all use at least some more precipitation. Now, as a reminder, El Nino, La Nina, opposite sides of a Pacific Ocean cycle, eventually affects weather patterns around the world. When the ocean is warm in the East Pacific, it's El Nino. And like what you see on your screen when it's cold, it's La Nina. Now, over the summer, cool water has been pooling in the East Pacific. That was an indication in the spring. La Nina is still on the way. It's just not progressing quite as fast. So we're in the third phase, neutral. And that could be for a good chunk of the fall before we get to La Nina in the winter. So what does that mean, this kind of in-between phase that we're in? So fall in the neutral phase, usually warmer and drier than La Nina, but not as warm and dry as El Nino, right in the middle. But I could be more specific, and that's what I did for you today. I looked at every year where La Nina developed during the fall or right before winter to see what we might learn about our fall season. So here are where temperatures were warmer or cooler than the long-term average during these fall seasons. And you can see, for the most part, slightly warm, but a good chunk of the inland Northwest ended up having average temperatures over the 6-odd years since 1950 where this has happened. And then here's where we had more or less precipitation during those fall months. This, at least from the sample we have of our records, seems to be a pretty good indicator of some wet conditions in the Cascades. It bleeds over into central Washington while we're at average to slightly dry as you continue further to the east. So historically, a fall when La Nina is developing or develops right after, average to slightly warm temperatures and average to slightly wet rainfall. Now, the new outlooks that have come out for the Climate Prediction Center for the fall season, they are pretty much lining up with this, leaning warm to the east, average to the west, and leaning wet in the west, and average to the east.